So, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Self-Development with Tactics podcast. Today we're once again going to go through A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. And this is actually part 2 of the summary. So there's 3 parts. The first one we've already gone through, and now this is the second one, and I've already started with it the last time. So we're going to go ahead with chapter 2 of summary number 2. A New Earth, Your Purpose, Human and Being. As soon as you rise above mere survival, the question of meaning and purpose becomes of paramount importance in your life. Even though I just skipped something, I'm sorry, I'm going to read that. Then comes the reconciliation of outer and inner purpose, to bring that essence, consciousness into the world of form and thereby transform the world. The ultimate purpose of that transformation goes far beyond anything the human mind can imagine or comprehend. And yet, on this planet at this time, that transformation is a task allotted us. That is the reconciliation of outer and inner purpose, the reconciliation of the world and God. There is no substitute for finding true purpose, but the true or primary purpose of your life cannot be found on the outer level. It does not concern what you do, what you are, that is to say, your state of consciousness. So I am happy, I am inspired. It doesn't really is about what you do as well. I'm a lawyer, I'm a teacher, whatever it might be. Although the fullness of consciousness is already there as the unmanifested, we are here to bring consciousness into the dimension. Opening yourself to the emerging consciousness and bringing this light into this world then becomes the primary purpose of your life. It is our purpose and destiny to bring a new dimension into this world by living in conscious oneness with the totality and conscious alignment with universal intelligence. You are a human being. What does that mean? Mastery of life is not a question of control, but of finding a balance between human and being. Mother, father, husband, wife, young, old, the roles you play, the functions you fulfill, whatever you do, all that belongs to the human dimension. It has its place and needs to be honored, but in itself, it is not enough for a fulfilled, truly meaningful relationship or life. Human alone is never enough, and no matter how hard you try or what you achieve. Then there is being. It is found in the still, alert presence of consciousness itself, the consciousness that you are. Human is form, being is formless. Human and being are not separate but interwoven. Those who are exceptionally good at what they do may be completely or largely free of ego, and while performing their work, they may not know it, but their work has become a spiritual practice. Most of them are present while they do their work and fall back into relative unconsciousness in their private life. Which, by the way, is exactly what happens to me. I can primarily talk about school, but when I am in school, then I do not think about much, or I didn't think about much back in these days, and I was really present, because I had something quote unquote smart to do. I had something that I basically need to be doing. I need to be at school. It's not something that I have chosen it initially, but once you have committed to the task, then you have to attend school. You can't just be like, okay, I'm just going to stay home because I don't want to. On the other hand, I was pretty fortunate to have so amazing people in my life in school. It's been amazing, and I'm more than fortunate to call these people my friends still. And shout out to you guys, to you people. It's been a blast. And also, I have met my first girlfriend in school. So just in this, basically third school that I attended, and the one that I've graduated then from. I'm just trying to, let's do it like that. So in the end, I really believe in the fact that work is important, also as a means of just contrast. In your private life, you can do whatever you want to do. at work you gotta have to do certain things, and there are certain rules and certain ways of doing things. Like, it is, well, I don't know, like, I do just think whether it is something you love or like or whatnot, work is quite important. And I'm actually also quite happy as I'm thinking about that fact that I'm gonna start working pretty soon as well again. And I really am looking forward to getting used to it again. I'm honestly a bit feared and anxious about work. There's a few days till then, but I think, well, it is, in the end, these are concerns that I'm having that are, well, I don't know, it's just something new, completely new, in a new city. As you can see, I moved, from according to the background. And I could also think about like the how I'm gonna be viewed, and certainly when you're working at a certain place or at that place, people are gonna think of you in a certain way. And this indeed, I mean, it is work to achieve that. I just don't know the English word now. There is a word for that, how you're being viewed, what people talk about you or say about you. But I don't know, like, there is always, often a thought in my head of, you need to achieve that again. I've quite been able to do that in past jobs, past school experiences. I've always been a certain person, and I've always quite enjoyed being that certain person, or being at least viewed as that certain person. But as I'm heading into studying something, I feel like I just once again gonna be a certain person, also in work or at work, which, certainly can make things easier for you. Just period, If you are a certain person, a good one, especially, then things are a bit better. But coming back to the summary again, concerns, maybe even anxiety, one can call it, I don't know. Human beings are meant to evolve into conscious beings, and those who don't will suffer the consequences of their unconsciousness. They are out of alignment with the evolutionary impulse of the universe. The very reason for our existence in human form is to bring that dimension of consciousness into this world. Just as space enables all things to exist, and just as without silence there could be no sound, you would not exist without the vital formless dimension that is the essence of who you are. We could say God if the word had not been so misused. I prefer to call it being. Being is prior to existence. Existence is form, contents what happens. Existence is the foreground of life. Being is the background, as it were. Trying to become a good or better human being sounds like a commendable and high-minded thing to do, yet it is an endeavor you cannot ultimately succeed in unless there is a shift in consciousness. This is because it is still part of the same dysfunction, a more subtle and rarefied form of self-enhancement, of desire for more, and a strengthening of one's conceptual identity, one's self-image. You do not become good by trying to be good, but by finding the goodness that is already within you and allowing that goodness to emerge. But it can only emerge if something fundamental changes in your state of consciousness. This kind of covers something that's quite interesting to me. There's also a quote about it. I've talked about it before, but when you're going on vacation, a ton of people, maybe also myself, expect to just be completely worry free and a completely different person, and everything is going to be fine, and everything is going to be amazing, and it's going to be a blast. Yeah, I hope so, that you are, or when you are on vacation, that is going to be a good time, but you're still you. So even on vacation, some problems that you might be having, you are for sure not solving them. I don't necessarily think that people think that they are solving their problems by being at a different place, but the overall problem is, and the overall thing is, that you are taking yourself with you, you and your personality. Maybe this change in location is going to bring up a new or a seldom found personality trait of yours, but fundamentally, it is still going to be you. You with all your problems, you with all your worries, you with all your dysfunctions. It is still going to be you. So no matter where you are, it's not going to change much unless you change something about yourself and about your self-image and your mental state, and or I don't want to say mindset, it is so overused, but you know what I mean. So the most important thing to realize is this: your life has an inner purpose and an outer purpose. Inner purpose concerns being and is primary. Outer purpose concerns doing and is secondary. Doing is never enough if you neglect being. The ego knows nothing of being but believes you will eventually be saved by doing. If you are in the grip of the ego, you believe that by doing more and more, you will eventually accumulate enough doings to make yourself, quote-unquote doings, by the way, to make yourself feel complete at some point in the future. You won't. You will only lose yourself in doing. The entire civilization is losing itself in doing, and that is not rooted in being, and thus becomes futile. Which, by the way, and I'm seeing myself in that, as funny as it is, me trying to do as much as I can and me trying to stay busy. And interestingly enough, there is, Seth Godin was talking about that, like being busy is not the goal. I would actually like to, I'm having so many tabs open, it's quite insane. Let's actually move this there. And I've been Googling for some recipes, apparently. Seth Godin busy. And I'm gonna put it back into place. Busy is not the point. The trap of busy. I'm gonna just read that one. Everyone who wants to be busy is busy, but not everyone is productive. Yeah, sure. It is about productivity and being busy. Busy is simply a series of choices about how to spend the next minute. Productive requires skill, persistence, and good judgment. Productive means that you have created something of value. Perhaps your self-created busyness is causing you to be less productive. And there's actually something pretty interesting that he says. Productive requires skill, persistence, and good judgment. I do want to kind of leave out persistence because it's not really following the point that I was willing to make, but skill and judgment. Judgment is something that we do inside of our head. Judgment is something that we do. So when I say, okay, I have done enough for today, I've been quote unquote productive enough, then this is what I think and this is what I believe and this is what I feel. Which, by the way, is also a skill. Skill that has to be learned, a skill that has to be made into practice or into a habit by being persistent. But in the end, it's not really about just doing everything that you can and then staying busy and just trying to do everything and whatnot. No, but it is first of all about, well, I would say actually figuring out those things that really matter and that you should really be doing. And on the other hand, being fine with them. Well, it's quite interesting. It's quite the book that I just needed at the time. Me being quite, well, emotionally not in the position that I would like to be in, to formulate it in a bit of a distant way. But yeah. A new earth, know thyself. It's probably going to be the last one for today. Yeah. Maybe even half of it. I don't know. Gnoti seauton, know thyself. These words were inscribed above the entrance to the temple of Apollo at Delphi. or Delphi actually, site of the sacred oracle. What those words imply is this: before you ask any other question, first ask the most fundamental question of your life. Who am I? There's nothing wrong with psychoanalysis or finding out about your past as long as you don't confuse knowing about yourself with knowing yourself. So knowing about yourself and knowing yourself. Knowing about yourself would mean knowing your past, knowing what you do in terms of your job, your eye color, whatever it might be. But knowing yourself is something different. I can't just explain now what it really is, but something different. Whatever you learn through psychoanalysis or self-observation is about you. It is not you. It is content, not essence. Going beyond ego is stepping out of content. Knowing yourself is being yourself, and being yourself is ceasing to identify with content. Most people define themselves through the content of their lives. Whatever you perceive, experience, do, think, or feel is content. Content, or content, is what absorbs most people's attention entirely, and it is what they identify with. When you think or say, my life, you're not referring to the life that you are, but the life that you have, or seem to have. You are referring to content, your age, health, relationships, finances, work and living situations, as well as your mental, emotional state. The inner and outer circumstances of your life, your past and your future, all belongs to the realm of content. As to events, that is to say, anything that happens, what is there other than content, that which enables the content to be the inner space of consciousness, which might be choosing which content to choose, and also how to frame it, how to see it, how to put it into perspective, how to evaluate it. So when I'm saying, okay, I'm an athlete, this might be my content, but I don't know if it makes sense, but evaluating and knowing whether this is, well, one could also talk about meaning or opinion there, but whether this is something that I think is good or not might be part of consciousness. Anyway, unconscious people, and many remain unconscious, trapped in their egos throughout their lives, will quickly tell you who they are. Their name, their occupation, their personal history, the shape or state of their body, and whatever else they identify with. Others may appear to be more evolved because they think of themselves as an immortal soul or living spirit. But do they really know themselves, or have they just added some spiritual sounding concepts to the content of their mind? Knowing yourself goes far deeper than the adoption of a set of ideas or beliefs. Spiritual ideas and beliefs may at best be helpful pointers, but in themselves they rarely have the power to dislodge and the more firmly established core concepts of who you think you are, which are part of the conditioning of the human mind. Knowing yourself deeply has nothing to do with whatever ideas are floating around in your mind. Knowing yourself is to be rooted in being instead of lost in your mind. Your sense of who you are determines what you perceive as your needs and what matters to you in life. And whatever matters to you will have the power to upset and disturb you. You can use this as a criterion to find out how deeply you know yourself. What matters to you is not necessarily what you say or believe, but what your actions and reactions reveal as important and serious to you. Who you are, which is consciousness, not who you think you are. Which kind of is, I think, pretty important, because this is indeed gonna enable you to be who you are. Not by forcing you into just being somebody, probably through outer circumstances or through outer things. So you're seeing somebody that is pre-checked and you're just trying to get checked as well, but this is not really who you are, but by thinking back in time and by, well, I would say analyzing things, you might just see by which actions you've made and what you've done, that you might not be that person. And well, as I think back, it's most often going to be something pretty harsh. It's not necessarily going to be something that you would like to hear and see, but it also just, of course, depends on how you view things and how you see things and how you're valuing things, which means maybe by me thinking back into just, I don't know, the last few months, one might say, okay, you've been an asshole. But this is just this is based on how I value things, or how this person values things, or sees things, this person's perspective. Anyway. Nobody can tell you who you are. It would just be another concept, so it would not change you. Who you are requires no belief. In fact, every belief is an obstacle. It doesn't even require your realization, since you already are who you are. But without realization, who you are does not shine forth into this world. It remains in the unmanifested, which is, of course, your true home. You are then like an apparently poor person who does not know that he has a bank account with 100 million in it, and so his wealth remains an unexpressed potential. Who you think you are is also intimately connected with who you see yourself treated by others. Spiritual realization is to see clearly that what I perceive, experience, think, or feel is ultimately not who I am, that I cannot find myself in all those things that continuously pass away. The Buddha was probably the first human being to see this clearly, and so anatta, no self, became one of the central points of his teaching. And when Jesus said, "Deny thyself," what he meant was negate and thus undo the illusion of self. So who is the experiencer? You are. And who are you? Consciousness. And what is consciousness? This question cannot be answered. The moment you answer it, you have falsified it, made it into another object. Consciousness, the traditional word for which is spirit, cannot be known in the normal sense of the word, and seeking it is futile. All knowing is within the realm of duality, subject and object, the knower and the known. The subject, the I, the knower without which nothing could be known, perceived, thought, or felt, must remain forever unknowable. This is because the I has no form, only forms can be known, and yet without the formless dimension, the world of form could not be. It is the luminous space in which the world arises and subsides. That space is the life that I am. It is timeless. I am timeless, eternal. What happens in that space is relative and temporary. Pleasure and pain, gain and loss, birth and death. With that being said, I'm gonna end the episode and see you soon. So